friends. My name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Hi, hello. Welcome to the start of the Far Horizons writing vlog. One of many, my friends. I have wrapped up my little preludes writing side quests of Project Glass and Project Mummy. I've got them out of my head. I can think now. We're gonna be thinking about Sage's story. I just put you on a tripod. Apologies. I am so excited. So if you guys have been following me for a second, you know that I have been wanting to work on Far Horizons book one of this is a connected trilogy of following a character that you guys meet in a second story, which was my very first cozy fantasy novel. But this series of novels is definitely not going to be cozy. Let me show you the mood board. This is fantasy. This is epic, maybe epic high fantasy, dark. There's necromancy. It's going to be giving D&D campaign, but with like horror elements in it, especially in this first one. It's a fantasy mystery. This very first one is a fantasy mystery, and I'm so excited to dive into it. By the end of 2025, I want a first draft of this book done. I currently have about 9,000 words written of this draft that I've done in the past, and I haven't touched in a long time. I think I started writing ideas for this April 7th, 2024. April 7th, 2024. So like we've been in this for a second. And you know what? That's okay. I have finished this entire notebook, which is not hard because this is a very thin, flimsy notebook, but this is my favorite like amalgamation vibe of this series and book and whatever. And I have now this notebook, which is all going to be Sage's story, Project Far Horizons. The trilogy is called Far Horizons. I don't know what book one is going to be called, so we're just gonna keep rolling. But this is going to be me, this vlog specifically, I think is going to just be me getting back into the story. Also, I'm so sorry. I keep doing this. I have cat TV on the TV right now for Freya, and just the sounds of birds and forest is just it's just the playlist of my life now, and I don't notice it until I start filming videos, and I'm like, oh, you can probably hear that in the back. I'm so sorry. Anyways, I'm so sorry if you hear random birds chirping in the background. I got cat TV on the TV. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get back into this. So what I want to do, and what I have done the other night, is I made a fuck ton of mood boards, and I spent literally hours on them. Okay, so long, in fact, that I know the ins and outs of Canva and Pinterest very well. They are my favorite things. I get all my photos from Pinterest, and I try desperately to find non-AI ones. And I'm glad that they flag a lot of AI ones, but I wish they were better at it, and I wish they had an option to filter out AI. I know there's someone on the internet working on a widget to like de-AI Pinterest, which I would love to get. And as soon as that's available, I'm putting it on my computer, because absolutely I don't want to use any AI in my promo or anything. You guys know how I feel about generative AI. I fucking hate it. It is awful. Do not use it. You know what I mean? So generative AI is a trash fire, and it's robbing people of their brain cells. But so I was making these mood boards for all my main players of the adventuring group and also the story as a whole. So we have Sage, who is our main character. Of course, this is her mood board. She is my beautiful, wonderful little fiendling. She's green. She is so obsessed with adventure and all this kind of stuff. And then I'm gonna have to shatter her world a little bit. You've met her in a second story. I love her very dearly. You have Lyra, our butch. We have our like, okay, she is my like paladin barbarian character. I'm like basing a lot of this off of D&D, but also like twisting it, because it's not just D&D. It's real life. It's real life. It's fiction. It's a story. It's a world. You know what I mean? She has to be more than just a character, race, and type and whatever, right? She's a paladin barbarian kind of figure, and she's human, and she is also very stoic, very fallen knight figure. I love her very dearly, and I cannot wait to play with her a little bit more. And then we also have Drift, who is the third POV. So we have Sage POV, Lyra POV, and also Drift is a POV in this book. And I'm very excited to dabble with Drift because I have some stuff planned for their story. Drift is an air elemental, and they float all the time. And they're technically transparent, but it's really hard to find pictures of transparent people. So I just went with blue, and that's a vibe. Like, they're rogue, they're trickster, that kind of a level of a character. Very fun, very comedy, but also extremely dark. Then we have Xantar, who is our dwarven money man. He is a fighter. He wants treasure. He's got a whole backstory to him. but this is our Dwarven money man. He's got a beard full of jewels and glitter, and like he like tinkles when he moves, because he just like, you think of a Dwarven beard with all the like the braids and stuff like that. He's got that shit like with like little jewels and trinkets and charms and stuff like all in his beard. I love Xantar. I can't wait to play with him a little bit more. And then we also have Ku, who is our bird folk. He is our cleric, paladin, healer figure, but he also wears plate armor and has a greatsword. So like he is like, we have a lot of fighters, we have a lot of people who can do a lot of different things and they fight monsters, but he can also like heal people. Like he's got healing powers. He's gonna be really interesting to play with because like he's a little bit mysterious to me. He's also blue. I love him. Blue bird man. I'm so excited. Anyways, and then of course, overall vibe. Again, necromancy, guys. If you haven't heard my hook, because I had a whole like query vlog that I wrote a query letter for, and I had like an expert in the field go over it and like give me pointers and stuff like that. And I am so happy I did that, because I wanted to set up a tone of what I want this book to be before I even really dive in, because then I can come back to that query once it's done and like adjust, tweak if I need to. But like, it's basic, like I have a query ready. I do not have a synopsis ready. That's like the next thing that I want to do outside of like write the fucking book, but I have a query ready for it. Anyways, the hook that I have for this one, the tagline, if you will, is a group of wannabe heroes find themselves neck deep in a job they were woefully unprepared for. One where the dead don't rest peacefully. I'm so excited about this, okay? Like, it is going to be, let me just read you the absolute kerfuffle that this is. I don't actually, do I have a better one? I think I have a better one. It is a fantasy mystery in the vein of Empire of Exiles by Erin M. Evans, as you guys know, my favorite book ever, with an extra dose of Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames's queer epic adventure, D&D vibes. And we have, I think also the query lady, Catherine, said that adding in something like, and the found family of like Legends and Lattes would like bring it in as well. A good comp to have, so found family as well. All her life, Sage Tealeaf dreamed of becoming a bona fide hero, leaving her seaside town, mastering her druidic powers, and living out the adventures of her favorite novels. When she joins the adventuring band The Crew, she thinks her wishes are coming true. That is, until they find themselves stranded on a tiny island in the middle of the Caspasian Sea with 0 gold to their names. Plus, Sage's magic is proving considerably tougher to grasp, and she's worried the crew will cut her loose for being inadequate. Something or other, I crossed out a bunch of shit. When the island turns out to be a pirating village plagued by an unknown creature stealing livestock, the crew offers their services for a hefty sum, of course. But this simple job turns much more sinister as investigations uncover the creature is only an undead puppet for a much more malicious being, as townsfolk start to go missing, and undead haunt the village. Sage and her team members battle the villagers' panic, internal strife between themselves, and the necromancer weaving soul strings to act on a grudge decades long. As tensions and undead rise, Sage has to prove herself and her abilities to not only the crew, but to herself, and save the pirating village before it is emptied of living souls. Like, I think I have a better version somewhere, but like, that's the vibe of this story, okay? Pirating village, necromancy, souls being played with. We got undead coming to rise. We have our villain is acting on a decades-long grudge and is trying to do stuff for themselves. And we also have Sage trying to prove herself and also prove that she can also remain in this group and have a place in this group when she feels that she kind of doesn't. And so we have this wonderful, naive little tiefling-like person, she's a fiendling, coming in, think Jester from the Mighty Nine level of energy, and she comes in and she just is incapable of doing a lot of things because she just doesn't have the experience and she doesn't have the know-how. So it's a lot of like her learning to be better for herself, and also as this whole team is like kind of, you know, uncovering this mystery of this undead creature like fucking wrecking this pirating town, it's also them getting to know each other better. It's their internal strife happening between one another. I'm so excited to get into this. Anyways, that's what this video is going to be. It's going to be me reacquainting myself with the story, figuring things out. Last time I touched this, I went in and like rehashed out part 1 of the beat sheet. Not even part 1. I think it was rehashing essentially up to the midpoint, which is really fun. Past me was doing something. In July of this year, I came back and I rehashed all sorts of stuff. So I love that. I have the opening image. I have 9,000 words written. So what I want to do is I want to really sink myself into this world. I want to do a little bit more world building. I want to push and pull. I want to figure out other characters that are around here. I want to really solidify the villain's motivations, even though I have that, I just want to reacquaint myself with this story because it has been a while since I've let myself into this world. And now that we're done with the Airmount books and leaving cozy fantasy for now, I am so excited to get back into full-fledged fantasy. And yes, I said I want a draft done by the end of 2025. And yes, if you've been watching my escapades with A Favored Fae, which is my latest cozy fantasy book, if you're new here, A Favored Fae is considerably bigger than my other books. A Favored Fae is considerably thicker than my other books because it has a lot more going on. So I know going into this, writing this fully fledged fantasy book is going to be a lot of work. And I'm so excited about it, especially because I'm dabbling in a genre that I'm not necessarily used to, which is mystery. I'm so excited to dive into mystery. I'm so excited to reread Empire of Exiles if I need to. For the 5th time, potentially? Because, where's the front? Here it is. This is my favorite book outside of Gideon the Ninth and outside of its sequel. I just love the way that the mystery was structured in here. And so researching and studying this is definitely going to be what I do. Just knowing everything going into this is going to be so much fun. I'm so excited to finally be back in the drafting world. Earlier this year, I also bought myself a new special mechanical keyboard that I'm going to be writing this on. Oh, I'm so excited. This also has Ophelia. It's an Ophelia key set, which is really cool. This is the High 75C Pro from Leoborg, and I redid the keys with keycaps from Temu. Yeah, I know. It's not great, but like, it's pretty, and it was the cheapest I could find. So we are going to be drafting this bad boy with this keyboard. Probably not in this video, but who knows? Who knows where I'm going to be in the next couple days as I like go back in and reintroduce myself to this world and get more inclined with the plot beats and all that kind of stuff. I just want to be in it, and I want to be writing it, and I want to be drafting for the rest of the year. And I'm so excited about that because it's been so long since I've had that creative spark in the fall, because usually fall rolls around and all my creativity goes out the door. I know my creative seasons very well, but I really would love a draft of this book done by the end of the year. If not, like January. Like, I just, depending on how much it's going to be, how much effort this is going to, like, how much work it's going to be to get this draft out, like, that's the hope and the dream. First draft, even if it's a trash draft, done by the end of the year, so that I have something to work on in 2026 and start querying it in 2026. That is the goal. That is where we are at. I want to work on this so quickly and so well. Yes. Anyways, welcome to the vlog. We're gonna get into Sage's story. I'm so excited. Hello, besties. It is officially August fucking 16th, I think. I don't know. We're in the limbo hours between the 15th and the 16th because it is currently 1:30 in the morning. Hi. I wanted to pop in and chat with y'all about Sage's Story for Horizons Book 1, my guys, because I have been doing some stuff tonight with this book and cracking things open, and I just want to talk because I think it's fun and interesting. Will it have any relevance in the final product? Who's to say? But I want to talk about it anyways because that will be fun. Also, my wrist is fucking killing me because I've been writing by hand tonight and it's just, she's stiff. So this is gonna have to go on. Anyways, hi. The past little bit since I last talked to you, I have been experiencing a very strange, like, stagnancy. It's not strange. I don't know what I'm saying. It is definitely something that just happens to me every fall. It's like I'm programmed into it, and I've talked about it with my therapist before, and it's something that I do want to try and like get rid of or like work my way around it, which is why I'm doing this vlog, and is also why I'm like trying to make sure that I have a draft of this book done by the end of the year. Because if you've been around on my channel for a little bit, you'll know I've talked about my writing seasons and my seasons of creativity a fair amount before, and how I've noticed over the past few years, kind of since about 2021, how my writing and creativity moves and changes, like seasons. I call them my seasons of creativity. When I hit September, October, November, and December, the last chunk of the year, the academic season, if you will, I am very much not creative at all. It makes sense in some ways, and it like really frustrates me in others, because I have been out of university for 6 years now, but I was in an academic situation since I was 4 years old before that, right? So I, like, my psyche, my brain, my body, my circadian, whatever, it is tuned in to the academic life of going back to school in September. When that occurs, you would think that the productivity would spark, you know? You would think. And I don't know what it is. I think it's because I am so trained to, especially in my academic career with my university, to go into university and completely push all my creative stuff to the side because we are now focusing on schoolwork, right? And so my creativity naturally just went down in the fall when I was in university. Despite my numerous attempts at NaNoWriMo, they never worked out because of this. Like, school was always in the way. It was midterms, it was essays, it was whatever, right? It was not reading for fun, it was reading classics, what have you. Which is also why I always have the itch to read classics around this time of year, because my university career trained me to that, because I am an English major and I studied a lot of Victorian classics and stuff like that. It's so interesting to map my creative seasons out, even though it really, really, really frustrates me that once I hit this time of year, I want nothing more than to be just churning out content and writing and brainstorming and just doing all this stuff, because that to me makes the most sense seasonally. That once fall hits, my brain is on like master mode of creativity and productivity, but it just isn't. I get to this time of year and everything grinds to a halt. September is always interesting to me because September is the transition-y month, getting back to piano, getting back to school, if you will, but getting used to having my 2 jobs again and getting back into the flow of things. It's the change of seasons, it's the shortening of days, what have you. And then October hits. And October is spooky season. I want to be reading all the spooky books. And yet this year has been weird. I don't really remember what last October was like or the October before that, but October, November, December is usually when my creativity and my juices just go completely out the window. It's the end of the year. I'm usually pretty burnt out. Whatever. I get to October and I guess that's like the final drain. I don't know, this October I got here and this past week I've just been so stuck and stagnant. And I've been in this rut for the past few days of like getting home from work or what have you, just sitting on my couch and scrolling. And I know I should be doing so many different things. I want to be reading. I want to be working on the audiobooks for my books. I want to be working on Sage's story. I could have gone out tonight like I had planned to and like done an Old Navy return and gone to the library and done all this different stuff, but I procrastinate so hard that I just procrastinate myself onto the couch into a TikTok spiral, and then I just sit here watching ghost hunting on YouTube, because that's my guilty pleasure, and I watch it constant. It's all that's on TV right now. It's either that or something fun and lighthearted like Markiplier or Jacksepticeye or Gap. And it's just, I get so stuck. And I'm trying to break out of that. And I did break out of it a little bit this week because I don't want to completely let myself into that. I do not want to completely fall into it and feel so bad about myself. Because I just sit here and I feel bad. And I feel like, oh, come on, like you could be doing so many things. But I can't like physically get up and do these things. And so today I was like, but I also have to remind myself to be gentle and kind to myself, because I know that this is just my brain being dumb. This is my brain doing its usual thing around this time of year. And it's the amount of creativity that comes into my head in like February, March, April, and then it just keeps going into summer. And like this past August, I got like a burst of inspiration energy because I was done my book and I could work on whatever I wanted. And it was just fantastic, right? So all this stuff happens and then I get to fall and everything just grinds to a halt and I just want to sit here and rot. And there's probably some like deeper psychological stuff going on there, but I'm equating it to the systems that my body has been in for 28 years of academia and study and putting aside the creative stuff to work on work and stuff like that. So trying to retrain my brain into wanting to consider that work the creative work, because that will make my life a lot easier if I can work on my creative work all year round without it feeling like pulling teeth. So I'm chipping away at that. That's all to say, tonight I made myself sit down with my books here, my 2 notebooks for the Far Horizons trilogy. I was rereading some of the stuff in here to reacquaint myself with the vibes, the world, some of the things I've done, and nothing was really clicking into gear. I don't know what it was. I think it's because I'm like, well, I've got so much stuff planned. I don't know what else to do other than just start drafting. But I feel like I need to be in the creative space of brainstorming and doing that kind of stuff before I go back to the drafting space with this book and letting myself do that. But I am going to be in the drafting space very soon. I can definitely feel that. because I'm not necessarily doing anything here with story. Today, I remembered I was like, oh, like I could do world building stuff. And the last time I worked on world building stuff for this book, I was working with specific questions. And it's from the world building question of the day.tumblr.com. So wbqotd.tumblr.com. Because I remember someone on TikTok, I can't remember her name right now, mentioning it a long ass time ago. That's what I was using when I was originally planning some stuff in here. And it's so fun to just ask a question and see what happens. And that's what I was doing in my Project Mummy vlog. That's what I wanted to do in my Project Mummy vlog. I didn't actually do that. And a lot of the work that I did in Project Mummy was very, very, very preliminary work. I've since had a friend reach out and like talk about the fact that the mummy itself encroaches on like colonialism and Orientalism, and you have to be very careful with that story. And since her coming out, and like also since I put that video up, I've been like tossing around many ideas of world building and changing the story now fully that I've explored the mummy side of things, and like actually fully just making it a story of my own. And then, you know, just hopefully channeling the heart of Evie and Rick and that kind of a thing. That's what I want. I want the vibe of it in my work. I want that to be the thing. I don't want it to be a direct creation of the mummy. I want to make it its own thing, but like with a vibe that I could say is compared to. Anyways, so what I need to do with that project is sit down and ask myself questions. And that I think is one of the best things you can do in your writing life and your creation life of any kind, is just ask yourself questions. And if you don't know where to start, look up a list of questions. Whether you want to work on character, or you work on world building, or you want to work on something specific with your world building, like myths and legends and whatever, like the lore, you can just sit down and you can find a question online. You can go to the world building question of the day tumblr.com, and you can pull a question from that. You can tweak the question if you need to be, if it's not exactly a right fit for your world. Like a couple of these questions that I landed on, I literally just scrolled on the page a little bit, and then whatever it stopped on, I was like, this one. I answered a couple questions today, and I think that's so fun because I not only got back in the mindset of thinking about this world, but I feel much more comfortable now pushing this world building and you know, kind of wheedling my way into it, and maybe even finding new things that I could add into the actual story itself and the plot and things like that. But what I do have is I had a question from that world building Tumblr thing. One of the questions was, are any articles of clothing or jewelry worn for their real or imagined protection against magic? I kind of want to think about like fashion and clothing in Anchorage, which is where this is set. Not spelt like the Alaskan town way, not Anchorage. Anchorage, which is Ancrage, Anchorage. So I was like, what do they look like? What do they wear? What's like the vibe, right? So I went on a little vibe check of that, if you're interested. The pirates of this world, because Anchorage is a pirating village, right? The OG pirates, the ones who like created and founded Anchorage, they are pirates with a capital P. They have that flair. They're dripping in their treasure. They're wearing their like fancy clothes. They look a little bit more eccentric. They're embodying pirating. And they are like, they're dripping in their opulence and that kind of stuff, because that is kind of who they are as people. They want to show that they are wealthy and that they are successful and they are good at what they do. And then we have some of the newer folk, or they're like kids and stuff. They're just wearing like pretty much normal fare because they're less of that mindset. Sure, they'll have like jewels here and there because that is just a thing that they have. In this place, it's not necessarily a like luxury item. It's just more of a thing that they have, like treasure that they use then for like bartering and things like that with other places. But they also have really, really, really high quality fabrics and materials to work with, because I'm sitting here thinking like, pirates wouldn't steal the shitty stuff. They would not barter for the shitty stuff. They know what's good, and they would take what's good, if not bartering for that in a fair way, because they're very fair people. Pirates are usually pretty fair. They just, you know, operate on their own rules and what they think is fair. So they have beautiful, really good quality fabrics, and everything they have is very well made. And they have like artisans on the island who were pirates, but have like made their trade making clothes, whether that is just like the work clothing or like the more opulent stuff. And they have like tailors and custom people and stuff like that. And then there's a seamstress on the island named Serdwin, and Serdwin, she works with thread and gems that are magically infused with things, because she is also like a master embroiderer. That is her trade. but she also just is really good at sewing and like makes clothing and stuff like that. But her thing is embroidery, and she can embroider things onto clothing with the help of a mage to like enchant the thread or the jewels or whatever she's embroidering on this clothing to like be a spell that the wearer wants and the one who pays for it wants, because it's very expensive to do. So I'm thinking like, because pirates are so suspicious and they're like generally pretty like suspicious, superstitious people, they would, especially the more opulent ones, the more like OG pirate ones, would have their clothing embroidered or embossed or like, you know, with like jewels and stuff like etched into stuff with protection spells on them of certain kinds, or they would have like specific clothing for certain different things that are imbued with this magic. And I think that's really cool, and I love that my brain thought of that. I love it so much. And then from there, I just like scrolled on the page again and I went and looked up. The question was, are there any stories, myths, or superstitions specifically around thunder or lightning in your world? And I was like, we're going to remove that. We're just going to talk about superstitions and myths and legends and stories in Anchorage, because I think that's a more interesting question to answer, because I don't really think they have any superstitions around like lightning and thunder. I was thinking, because they're pirates, we have people from all over Rivar here. We have people from the Nerian Empire. We have people from the Manad Empire. We have people from the Brenner Empire across the fucking continent, you know? And so people are coming together with all sorts of different religious beliefs and stories and all sorts of really interesting stuff. So there isn't like necessarily a big overall belief about things, but there are little crossovers of stuff, because that tends to happen when you have pirates. And when you have a certain kind of folk, like all these people are like sailors, pirates, that kind of a thing, merchants. They have the one overlapping one that most people, if not everybody on this island, believes is that the sea herself should be respected. She is a strong force not to be messed with. And no matter what gods you believe in, no matter what stories you believe in, the sea herself is unto herself. She is of her own thing. Even if you are a god of the sea, you are not the sea herself. Like, it's like the sea herself is like a being, and like, you know, Mother Nature, like that is what they believe, and they believe generally, like genuinely, that you have to respect Mother Ocean, kind of a thing, because they're pirates. Of course, they have some superstitions about the water and stuff like that, and they have a saying like, the sea calls to us all in the end. That is a saying that just kind of goes around the pirating community, and it's very prevalent in Anchorage. We also have a general distaste to some specific kinds of magic, which is more like an entire worldly thing in Rivar. So Rivar itself, when I say Rivar, I mean the continent of Ravarin, which if you've ever seen my map, I don't have a book of mine near me, but like if you've seen my map of my cozy fantasies, the map of Rivar is the whole thing. Rivarin is the continent, and Rivarin is only a tiny chunk of this world. There is Cryomark, which is another thing we're not even going to deal with in this story, not at all. But like, this part of the world specifically has a big belief that when it comes to necromancy or any kind of resurrection or anything like that, it is a direct undermining of what is natural. It is it's something that is looked down upon. It doesn't mean that it's not done in some places, but overall sentiment of necromancy is that it is bad and unnatural and should not be done, because it is directly opposing the gods' will, fate's will, life's will, whatever you believe in, right? It's directly opposing that, because it's bringing someone back from the dead. It's reversing what is natural, which death is natural, right? And death itself, I also said, like, is treated differently everywhere. Like, it's respected to feared to considered something almost beautiful, culture to culture. But our pirates specifically believe that it's just part of their lives. And I did, like, previously think about like death rites and what they do with bodies, and I had to look up, because I was like, what do they do with the dead at sea, you know, that kind of a thing. And then what would they do now that they have a place of land, you know, like how would that change? Like, how would that adjust their death rites and stuff like that? So I thought about that for a bit. I thought about like superstitions specifically about Anchorage and Theramara Minor, which is the island that they're on. And then I was like kind of pushing and pulling it. Like, right now, I don't think there's many superstitions. There are a couple, like maybe people are a little uneasy about certain parts of the island just because like the forest is really, really dense and there's cliffs. Like, it's more of a naturally based, like, don't go over there because you might slip and fall into your death kind of a thing. Like, it's not supernaturally driven or anything like that. But after the events of this book, there are gonna be superstitions about the world and about that forest and about the ruins nearby, because there are ruins nearby that have not yet. They've been discovered, but they haven't, like, have they even been discovered? Like, they're just not a thing that they really would notice because they're, like, further into the island than anyone has really gone. And so it's like, yes, Anchorage is established, it is vibrant, and it is bopping, but they have not been there for very long. Like, the people who founded Anchorage are still alive, and they are the matriarch and patriarchs of Anchorage. Like, they are still running it. They're still there. They're just older and set in their ways or whatever. And they have like the younger generation now coming up, and like there's multiple generations in Anchorage, and it's a very vibrant village, but they haven't really explored the island a whole heck of a lot, even though it is a tinier island compared to like Theramara Major, which, fun fact, there's going to be a new map in this book at some point, hopefully. I mean, if I self-publish it, there will be. And if I regularly publish it, I'll make sure there is. So we have the Caspasian Isles, if you will. It doesn't want to focus. It wants to focus on the mushroom. The Caspasian Isles, which are much more intricate and intense and detailed than they are in my books. But actually, in A Favored Fae, the map has been updated to show more of the Caspasian Isles. Fun fact. But Theramara Minor is a tiny little guy here, compared to Theramara Major, which is this big one here. And Theramara Minor, God, why do I use these terrible words for myself? I can't pronounce. Has Anchorage on it. It has, that's where Anchorage is. It looks so small, but they are at the front of the island and they haven't done a lot of exploring at the back, you know? Because it's more of like, leave it to the elements. Anyways, things I have in my brain and things I've thought about. And then I went into more stuff, like little things, like there's a couple people from the Nerean Empire. Very specifically, there's like 1 or 2 people in Anchorage that have suspicions around a specific kind of bird that lives on Theramara Minor that I'm going to be using symbolically throughout this book. Fuck yeah. So I love that. And then I was like, let's think about the gods, because there are some things to do with the gods in this book that I am so excited to explore. And I needed to figure out a couple things about some of the gods, because not only is this book, this first one is a fantasy mystery, right? They're trying to figure out who the fuck is killing everybody and then reanimating everybody and why, you know? And when they figure that out and they figure out more of what the motivations of this person are, there's also some things that they realize, like, this is more book 2 and 3 stuff that I'm playing with here, but I need to establish now so that I know where I'm going with objects and quest stuff coming up. Anyways, it's also good to do because I know the ruins on Theramara Minor are specifically for this god, one of them. And they're not part of any pantheon that are known in my world yet. I mean, they are, but they're not worshipped or anything, is all I'll say. I'm trying to keep spoilers out of this as well. But yeah, so that was really fun today to do that. Really fucked up my wrist. But hey, it charged my brain a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of notes down. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. I like doing little world building stuff like this. Like, this is fun. I might do a couple more in the next couple days, and then I'm going to go back into looking at like the story structure that I've got set up and that kind of a thing, and like really start to picture the beginning of my story, and then I'm going to get to drafting, I think. I just want to be back in it. I want to revisit Drift and Lyra and Sage, and I have been playing around with them in my head a little bit because I did make those mood boards, and today I actually made a whole mood board for my like computer background, which I need to set as my computer background because I want to see it every time I open up my computer at work or here and just be like inspired by it, because it is just a big amalgamation of stuff. And I love it. And it's such a cool mood board. And when we're manifesting, this gets picked up by an agent and then eventually an editor and a publishing house, I can use these things that I've made to give them the vibe of cover stuff. I'm thinking ahead 100 years. Anyways, my friends, I've been talking for so long. I just need to get this out. I need to have a chat about the creativity in October vibes. And I'm really happy that I'm back in this and I'm starting to really get into it. Like, I've just been really, really, really wanting to work on Sage's story. I just needed to let myself crack in somehow. And I just needed to remember asking myself questions is so cool. And if I can't think of anything, go online. I'm very happy with this, and I'm very excited to keep going with this. That's where I'm gonna leave this, my friends. I will check back in when I have something else that I want to chat about. But as for now, I'm gonna go dream about gods and curiosity and embroidery magic. Hello, friends. Oh my god, it's been a second. Hi. It's officially November 7th, I think, today. I want to swap in because I have lots of updates on this story. The last time I talked to you, I had not yet started writing back in this project, but last weekend I picked it back up and I wrote 1,800 words. So I'm now sitting at 12,000 words in this project. And then I set out at the beginning of November to be like, oh my god, okay, we have like 2 months left until the end of the year. I wanted to do essentially like a double NaNoWriMo situation because I want to hit 110,000 words in this project. And I was at 10,000 words. So I was like, okay, 50,000 words a month, double nano. And then I did not write again all week. So to give myself like actually a good shot at getting work done on this draft, because I still have a little bit of a hope that I can get this draft done by the end of 2025. It is on my bingo board. It is on my goals list to have a draft done of Far Horizons Book 1 by the end of this year. To do that, I want to write 10,000 words this weekend. It is currently Friday, November 7th, and I'm sitting here and I'm relaxing after the day. I'm doing some knitting and all that kind of stuff. It is just after 7, even though it looks like it's the depths of midnight outside. And I would like to get some words down today and tomorrow and Sunday. Like, I want to make this a writing weekend. I'm like a little terrified and also excited. Why? Because I am still in the beginnings of this project. I've only got a couple chapters down. I'm still trying to find my footing with a couple of the characters, with Drift specifically, who is a point of view character. Like, I know who they are and I know their motivations and I know their like all this kind of stuff, but I just, whatever, like I'm in one of their chapters now, like when I stopped writing last weekend, and it just felt awkward. Because Sage, I can write so much in. She's so easy to write in. And Lara is surprisingly easy to write in as well. And then I go to Drift's point of view and I'm like, something feels off. So we're just going to try and like actually get into this project this weekend. So last time I talked to you, I was doing those last bits of, was I doing those last bits? I don't even know what I was doing. In this project now, have basically come here. Thank you. Other notebook. I'm gonna lean you up against some yarn. Okay, last time I talked to you, essentially I was trying to get back into what I had previously been writing, and planning and stuff like that, and I was answering like world building questions and stuff, which was really, really exciting. And honestly, such a fun thing to do. On October 15th, I started doing that. I know I did another like session of them. October 16th, I did another session of different questions, like what kinds of things can be found in your world's vintage and antique shops. And that kind of took me down like a little way of thinking of different artifacts or things that could be in this world. It came up with a scene idea and all this kind of stuff. And then there was a question of, if someone wanted to destroy your world, how would they go about it? Which was really fun to think about, specifically in like the specificity of Anchorage and Theramara Minor, which is where my characters are. And then like the grand scheme of like all of Revar, how would that happen? A good thought experiment. And then I was like, hey, let me figure out the gods. At some point I like worked more on my gods and stuff like that, which was interesting. And then I was like, okay, the vague beats, let me just write down what the fuck is gonna happen in this book as I'm going through it. And I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4 big pages of just notes. And then I got to a certain spot and I was like, okay, I know now kind of where I've been up to in planning previously. And I know the ending. And this usually happens for me when I'm planning my books, is that I know like the final scene, I know the finishing image, I know that final moment. And then I need that, and I need the very opening image, which I've written it, I've got the chapters. Usually from there, I need like midpoint, all this like little, like the Save the Cat beat sheet. I've got that like ingrained in my brain at this point, and I kind of build off of that vaguely as I'm going through. And then I usually get to this point in the second part of the second act into the third act. Most of the time, I can get through the second act usually. It's the third act that fucks me up because I don't quite know the layout of like what's going to go down. Like I know what's happening. I know different things like that. So I got to a point and I literally stopped with a bullet point there. And then I ended this page with like the end bullet point here. I was like, okay, from where I'm at, like the next thing that I'm going to do is start writing again. And so I did, and I picked up my book. I went back through all of what I had written, which is what I love doing, is when I pick back up a project after not writing in it for a little while. I pick it back up and I read back through everything that I have written. I allow myself to edit it, to add to it, to fix with it, and I ended up adding 1,000 words, I think, at the time. I'm not entirely sure. And then I went in and I wrote more of a scene, added more chapter. I don't know. I added 1,800 words the other day, and I just kept going with it and starting another chapter and finishing the chapters that I had, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm happy with that. And I'm a little nervous because, again, it's the beginning of the project. Beginnings of projects when I'm writing and drafting are hard for me. I find them so tricky because I want to just sink into it, and I don't know how to do that yet with this specific project. I did the other day when I wrote those 1,800 words. I put Florence and the Machine's new album in my ears, and I think I listened to it 1.5 times, and that's how many words I got in that like hour and a bit stint of time. So love that for me. I think I'm gonna do that again tonight. Not right now because it's about 7 and I just kind of want to chill and relax and stuff, and I usually work best when it's later. So around 9 maybe, in 2 hours I'm gonna come back to this and start writing again and see where we get, because I know what the next scene is. I just need to write it, and I think that's a good place to be, and I'm excited for it. So we're back into Sage's story. We've gone back through, I've like reread all the stuff. I've gone through like answering like world building questions. I've gone through all my notes and stuff like that and reread and replotted, and so I'm familiar with the story. I'm familiar with the world once again, which is what I wanted to do with this at the beginning of this vlog. And now the second part of this vlog is going to be this mega writing weekend where I try and write 10,000 words in one weekend, inspired by Lynn D. Jung's recent 2 vlogs that she's released where she's written 10,000 words in a weekend. And I think that's going to be an interesting kind of jump start into getting these words down, because at that point I should realistically, theoretically, be at 22,000 words at the end of this weekend in this project. And that should be nearing the quarter mark of this book. So it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be kind of fun to kind of play with and see where things go and actually get into the story that has just been living as beats in my head and as little snapshots of scenes. I really want to get into the mystery of this. I just want to get this draft down so that I can start making the story better, because that's what I want to do. I just want to be working on the story. I want to be bettering it. I want to make sure that it's nice and tight. I want to have people read it and tell me what to make better with it. I want to actively be working on this so that I can then be actively working on getting towards a traditional publishing situation, querying, all that good stuff. Like, I just want to be in the story. I want to be telling the story that's lived in my head for so long. I'm excited to like further my career with it. And even if I don't get into the query space, it's still going to be furthering my career because I'm going to be having more books published. Either way, like, it's going to be published by me or by a publishing house, right? So it's going to be either or. I'm just excited to finally tell Sage's story. I will clock back in with you guys. I will check back in with you guys later this evening when I start to write, and we will see how many thousands of words I can get done tonight. And then we'll set up for tomorrow and Sunday and this mega writing weekend. Hello, friends. It is officially Sunday. I have written 6,100 words this weekend, and I have not written a single one today. It was all yesterday. The 5,000 words were yesterday. On Friday, I said I was going to touch base with you guys, and I got a headache, so I stopped writing at 1,100 words. But I'm really happy that I got those 1,100 words because it like jump started my weekend of writing. And then yesterday, spent majority of the afternoon and evening writing. Majority, I say, thinking about it. I think I got 2 hours and 47 minutes of writing down consecutively over different sprints. Because yesterday I baked a loaf of sourdough bread, and then I was prepping a second one, which both of them have been fails. Whatever. I'll just try again next weekend. I gotta strengthen my starter more, I think. I did ask on TikTok, and I have not checked to see what all the sourdough people are saying about it. So hopefully people are answering my question. If not, well, we'll see. But it is now Sunday, and I would really like to write some more. Do I think I can write 4,000 more words tonight? No. I don't even know if I'm gonna get 2,000 more words in, because it is almost 8 p.m. I really want to do my nails. It's Sunday. I am so sleepy. I just got home from mom and dad's, and I really want to do this. So we will see if I get any more words written. If not, I will try write tomorrow. It's hard on Mondays though, because Mondays are my teaching days and I get home at like 9. Even though the late hours are the time when I thrive and write a lot, I'm so tired on Mondays because it's work and then work, you know? And then Tuesdays, it's also work and then work. But we're gonna try at some other time this weekend, just not right now, because right now I want to do my nails. But I wanted to pop in and tell you that things are cruising. I think I've hit 18,000 words in the draft, which is amazing. I'm super happy with that. And I'm really having to just tell myself, one, it's been so long since I've been in a drafting mode. It has been eons since I've been specifically in a first draft mode, you know? Because first drafts are a mess for me anyways. They should be for you too, because first drafts in my head are trash drafts, zero drafts, if you will. They are me just telling me the story and getting it down, getting it out, getting some scenes laid out, getting some kind of a structure, whatever. Like, yes, I've already done that with the outline, but now that I'm writing it, I want to be fleshing out the scenes, figuring out arcs of characters and their motivations and their emotions in the scenes. It's a much more in-depth look. It's not as torn down as like a really, really, really fleshed out outline. It is a draft. It is a story, but it's terribly written. Like, that's one thing that I have to keep reminding myself is that, yeah, it's fine if it's terribly written. It's going to be bad. And I'm having a hard time wrestling with my words that are coming out of me, because I'm like, this is not what I want to be saying right here. Like, I want it to feel this way. And I just have to remember, I cannot edit a blank page. I need to have this draft done so that I can come in with my editing chops and go at a deeper level. This is just story stuff. This is not about word stuff. This is not about tone and whatever. This is just me writing the story down in a more scene by scene way. So I have to keep reminding myself that. I have not been in a first draft mood since, when did I last do a first draft? It was last year in June when I was doing Merry and Bright. Was that last year? 2024? Yeah. When I drafted Merry and Bright in like 2 weeks. So, but that's 17,000 words. It's a novella, right? It's very small. I just have to remember, it's not going to be pretty. Not all first drafts are going to be good, if any. I mean, a second story's first draft, I was so proud of it because it was just like, it just poured out of me, and a lot of the writing, a lot of the sentences stayed pretty much the same, and the structure stayed pretty much the same. I did do some big changes with the second story, but I was so proud of the first draft. I was like, yeah, let's go. That's very rare. I am not usually very proud of first drafts. As I keep saying, I just have to keep reminding myself of this. Anyways, so yes, we are currently at 6,100 words written for this weekend out of the hoped for 10,000. I don't think it's gonna happen. I'm not in a writing mood right now. I'm just sleepy. I just want to be cozy. It's Sunday, and I'm gonna let myself do that because it's important to also listen to yourself and try not to force it. I do want to try writing a little later once my nails are done, once I'm kind of settled in. If I have a little bit of inspiration, I might write for like a half hour or an hour. And knowing myself, I can probably get another 1,000 words down, at least maybe 2,000 if I really, really push it. I mean, I got 5,000 words down in 2 hours and 47 minutes yesterday, which is a little insane. But again, none of those words are good. It's just me brain vomiting on the page, if you will. But that's okay. I'm liking it. Where they are in the story, we've met our characters. We've kind of set up the situation and the problem, which is where they are out of money, and the job that they just finished, they didn't get paid at all for. They got paid in fish because it was a little fisherman village, and they were hoping that that was going to pay their next 2 days on the boat, or the next however many days on the boat that they're on, to get them to Theramara Major, which is their end destination, because they have a job lined up in Theramara Major. But because this doesn't pay anything, they get dropped off early at a different island entirely in Theramara Minor. And Theramara Minor is an area that is kind of dripping in suspicion with the fellow sailors on board. Like, none of them really know what's going on. I do need to go back and like add more of that atmosphere and that like suspicion from the sailors in a better way. But, you know, I need to do something there. And then they get to Theramara Minor, where they are now, and they have just come into Anchorage, the village. There have been many other things happening along the way. They've already had their very first encounter with the monster that's kind of currently haunting the place, and they've met Rosetta, who is a very angry farmer woman who just lost her prized sheep due to this creature. So things are fun. Things are interesting. The most interesting thing that I Googled yesterday was, how do you approach a sheep that's been like terrified? Is there a way you can do that? Like, to approach a sheep that's like scared? That was really fun Googling that. Also, I have been listening to, on Friday, I listened to Wasteland Baby by Hosier, and yesterday I was listening to first Everybody Scream by Florence and the Machine, and then I moved on to Ceremonials by Florence and the Machine, which I really enjoyed. That's the first time I've ever really listened to that album, and I was really, really enjoying it. So that's the music I've been listening to as I've been doing this writing thing. It's been wonderful. I think in total, it was an hour and a half on Friday. It was 2 hours and 47 minutes. So 4 hours and like 15-ish minutes. Don't test my math. It's bad. 4.5 hours of work so far. In total, 6,100 words. I'm happy about it. And I'm really happy that it kind of jump-started everything. That was really the goal this weekend, was to jumpstart and like really get into it. So I would like to write a little more today, just so I can say that I've written every day this weekend. And I would like again to write tomorrow and the next day and the next day, because I am trying to do a pseudo NaNoWriMo situation, because I don't know if I've said it in this vlog, I probably have, but I want to have a finished draft by the end of the year, and it's going to be a push. It really is. Even if this is just a trash draft and I'm like fumbling my way through it and I keep doing like fill in more here, etc., etc. I don't care. I just need to have a finished first draft by the end of 2025 that covers everything that I want. And I'm aiming for like 110,000 words. And I was currently at 10,000 words when I set that goal. At the beginning of November, I was at 10,000 words. And so I was like, okay, if I want to write another 100,000 words, that's NaNoWriMo twice. November and December, 50,000 words per month. And so that was essentially just like writing every day. Got to get into the groove of it. Got to really push. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm really going to try. Really am. And doing these bigger weekends, I think, is what I'm going to have to do, because Mondays and Tuesdays, I just don't have the energy to write because I'm teaching, right? I have both my jobs those days. And I've been finding with the time change this year, it's just so dark and dreary at like 4:30. Not quite yet dark at 4:30, but it's getting there really quickly. And it is so draining and depressing. Like yesterday when I was like getting ready I like ended up dropping off cookies at my friend's house around like 4:30. I got home at 5 and it was immediately dark like 5 minutes later. And I was like, oh, this feels wrong. Like this feels, I have so many hours left of the day. This feels off. It feels wrong. Today, I got home from an oil change and then I went to mom and dad's for dinner. I left at like 4:30, 4:40, and it was getting like dark and it was already overcast. I'm just so tired. And so fighting the morbs, fighting the seasonal depression that always comes this time of year, and fighting the lack of creativity that I always have that comes in this time of year. I've learned my creativity seasons. I've learned that I'm just so much more productive at the beginning of the year and in the spring and summer. When like academia season rolls in, I lose all steam in my creative pursuits and I lose it all. And then it gets into cozy season with October, November, and December, and I don't want to do anything but sit on my couch and knit. So trying to do these little things, these little challenges, pushing myself, trying to keep myself writing. That's what's important to me this season, because I just want to make sure that I'm trying and I'm not disappointed in myself for lack of trying. you know? Even if I don't finish these goals, even if I don't hit them, I've tried, and that's the biggest part. Because if I sit down and write 300 words in one sitting, that's 300 more words than I had before. Even though that's not even a good writing day for me, that's not even close to a good writing day for me because I am someone who writes, as I've said, thousands of words at every sitting. It's still something. And I have to remind myself of that. It's the same little thing. It's just being kind to yourself. That's really all it is. Be kind to yourselves, my friends. That's the name of the game. But I'm really happy to be back in this world. I'm really excited to keep exploring this story and each of my characters that I'm in and finding like the nuance of everything, because I found with the construction of the plot this time, because it is a mystery and I'm kind of like, when I was first framing it out and plotting it out and figuring out the clues and everything else, I was working with Empire of Exiles by Erin of Evans. And I was looking at what she was doing and I was trying to like kind of emulate a little bit of like the structure that she was doing. And I have a lot of like the pieces of the puzzle and everything. And I have a lot of the beats and a lot of the story moments and a lot of the scenes, but I don't have like the meat and the sinew of this story yet. I don't have the skin and the blood and everything. Terrible metaphor, I'm sorry. But like I don't have that yet. I just have like the bones and some of the muscles and some of the organs, but like I don't have all of it. And that comes from a first draft and editing and editing and editing and editing and editing. So I just need to remember that. Anyways, that is my little update, my friends, for this 10,000 word weekend. We are at 6,100 words, which I am actually quite happy with. I would like to have more. I'm just anticipating not having any more because I really just want to have a really cozy evening. So I will check in maybe later tonight, maybe tomorrow if I have any updates for more writing. But 6,100 words is really great. It is really great. I wrote 5,000 words yesterday. That's amazing. Like, I'm very happy with that as a weekend. Anyways, that's the update, my friends. I'll catch you in a bit. Hello, friends. It is officially November 14th? Question mark? I don't know. It's Friday. I'm supposed to have this video up today. I ran out of steam yesterday. I ended up rereading one of my favorite books of the year to do something for one of my friends for her birthday. And I just ran out of steam to do literally anything else. So that's fine. We're going to be wrapping up this video today. So that's all right. This has been a writing vlog for Sage's story. I gotta say, guys, I'm struggling a little bit with just, I think I've mentioned it a couple times, this vlog, just settling into the story, finding the groove, because the creative seasons, it's just not my season to be creative. And I really want to be drafting. I want to be doing all these things and I want to be telling the story. I want to be getting it out, and I'm going to keep trying actively to get this story out, whether it's a trash draft, whether it becomes like a glorified summary outline kind of a draft. I need it out of my system. I need it out of my brain so that I can let it rest, and then in 2026 come back and make it better and start like working on the story itself and like making the actual story better and all that kind of stuff. Because I've noticed I've had this feeling now with 3 of my books, with A Little Luck and A Favored Fae and this one, that the first draft of the story just feels wrong. It feels like incorrect as I'm writing it, which is a really hard thing to get your mind around, to like keep pushing through it, because I don't know what it is. Like, it just, writing the draft feels like I'm just slamming into walls and I just don't know where I'm going, even though I have an outline. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it feels wrong. I don't have the voice, I don't have the characters, it's weird. And then whenever I come and do the second draft or the second pass through, everything starts falling together and it feels more proper and done. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. It's a very specific, like, empty kind of feeling when I'm writing these, when I'm drafting a first draft. And I don't like this feeling. And it's making me not want to draft, and it's making me not want to do first drafts, which is crazy. And it's something that I need to get over. Just keep pushing through, because I know logically that once I'm done this draft, I can come back and I can make the story better, and I can make it feel better. Like, I can find that right rhythm that I need to find that'll work, all that kind of stuff. So no, I did not finish my 10K weekend, which is totally fine. We are currently sitting at 18,542 words in the draft. I have 6 chapters underway. I'm on that 6th chapter, plus the prologue, if you will. I am underway. I am getting there. We are slowly, like, we are kind of like right at the beginning. I just need to find the groove, and that's okay. I need to remind myself, as I keep saying, I need to be gentle with myself. I just need to remind myself that it's gonna get there, and that's okay. I just need to get this story out. I need to get something down so that I have something to edit and make better, because you can't edit a blank page. So I don't know how to describe the feeling that I've had now with 3 books, but the first drafts of each of these books have just felt off and wrong. And like I'm driving into a completely dark road with no headlights on. Like, it just doesn't make any sense as to why I'm feeling that way, because I have outlines. I know what's going on in the story. I just feel so unmoored when I'm writing a first draft, which is so bizarre. I used to love writing first drafts, and I really hope this is not a trend of me just like forever. First drafts are never going to be my favorite thing anymore. Editing becomes my favorite thing, and brainstorming obviously is like my favorite thing. I love creating. I love figuring things out and just spewing out random bullshit that like probably doesn't ever end up in the actual book, but like I love the creative stage, and then I love the fix it stage. So the drafting is no longer my favorite stage of writing, and that's okay, sort of. I really wish it was still my favorite, because I used to love drafting, and maybe I'm just out of practice. Maybe that's what it is. I'm just out of practice of first drafts. And maybe I need to get more first drafts under my belt again, get used to drafting bad, and then just coming back to it later. I think maybe that's my issue. I think it's just been so long since I've properly first drafted a story, other than Merry and Bright, which was last year, June. Even like that one just felt different, because that one was fine. It was like a 15,000 word plan. I planned out every single chapter. I knew there was going to be 9 chapters in it, 8 or 9 chapters. I knew what was going to happen. I knew chapter by chapter what was going to happen in every chapter. And it just poured out of me in like 2 or 3 weeks, right? And I was happy with that. And it was easy. And then I got to editing it and like having people read it and tell me like, you know, that kind of thing. So maybe I'm just out of practice with drafting proper full-length novels and fantasy stuff. And maybe that's what the issue is. Who's to say? I am not quitting. I'm not quitting. Even though there have been a number of nights when I've been sitting on my couch doing other things like knitting or just relaxing, because my brain just does not want to do anything else. And I keep like almost berating myself for doing that. And then I remember that I have to remember this season is just not my season. It is seasonal depression season for me. I am, fighting back the morps every day. And I just have to be kind to myself. It's dark. It's gloomy. It's like we still haven't had a good snowfall, so it's dark as fuck outside when it gets dark. With snow, at least, like there's something to reflect. And so it like stays a little bit lighter, which makes winter a lot easier for me to handle. But like the darkness is so much. It's all mental health, and I just have to be kind to myself and have to remember that it's okay to fail a little bit. Will that mean that there's probably not a first draft by the end of this year? Probably, but I'm not committing to that. I'm not committing to the failure yet. I will commit to that failure on December 31st if it's still a thing. But from here on out, I'm just going to try. I wanted to do a glorified NaNoWriMo where I'm writing every day in November and December. That's just not going to happen. And it's already November 14th. Like, it's not going to happen. But I'm going to try and keep writing at least some days of the week, getting the bigger word counts down when I can, chipping away at the story. I'm not gonna beat myself up about it. I'm just getting the story down so that when I come back to it, I have something I can fix and make better, because that seems to be what my brain wants to do. That's okay. And that is my TED Talk for you guys today. It's okay to feel this way. And it's all right that we are at the end of the year and feeling so fucking burnt out. I don't know what it is about this year. This year, coming up to the holiday season, feels so much worse than previous years. I'm so much more exhausted. I feel so done. And I think it's just the year we've had. And that's okay. And it's all right. It will get better. It will turn around. The new year will come, and there will be different feelings and different things happening and all that kind of stuff. And I know my creative seasons will reset themselves, and I'll get back into it, and I'll keep trucking forward, even though my little tiny demon brain wants to be like, I want to be querying right now. I want to be furthering my career right now. Bitch, it takes time. It takes time, So, and this is the time that it's going to take, and this is the work that it's going to take, and I know that. I just have to tell that demon part of my brain to shut up. Anyways, my friends, thank you for following me as I get reacquainted with Sage's story and tried and failed a 10,000 word weekend. I did get 6,100 words, which is still amazing, and it's 6,100 words more than I had before. I've basically doubled my word count that I started this vlog at, because I started with 9,000 words and now we're at 18,000 words. So I'm happy with that. We're just gonna keep going and see what happens with Far Horizons, and I hope you're gonna join in and follow along, my friends, and we'll see what other wonderful things I get up to in the new year. But the biggest goal is going to be querying Far Horizons Book 1. So I just need to get as far as I can in this draft by the end of the year so that I can have something to work on in 2026 and start making the story better and better and better and into something that I'm really excited about. Anyways, my friends, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this kind of discombobulated vlog, but I'll see you in another one very soon. Stay kind and keep on writing.